Maybe you should. No, I've got to get pizzas to that observatory over there. And so you get attacked by some like smoke monster, and you like the pizzas fall off, and you're like scrambling around, like, oh no, somebody
Smoke
needs
monster.
the pepperoni.
So I'm swimming through 30 weight motor oil.
Why are these new additions to your game that your intention was to release this fall? What are you doing?
Their primary focus should be surviving litigation.
Someone take his phone. I'll do it. Just give me a key card and a red button that turns off Randy's Wi-Fi.
It pisses me off that they lump racing in with sports. Then you look at this insert F-bomb, Mario Kart and Sonic Racing lumped in with F125.
An aimless rant. We were just angry. We're just angry.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
What's up, everyone? We are live. It is episode 66. I didn't do the math. It's been too busy for math this week. But of the Hardcore Casual broadcast, he is Jay of F1 podcast fame. All right, and I am Mason of Online Infamy, and we are the conversation at the seaworthy vessel behind you. So yes, we are here, and it is a big show, Jay. How are you this fine evening?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, obviously it's been a rough week as we both discussed, but a lot of good news starting to come down the pipe. Plus we got a couple little gifts this week, so which I think have been awesome. And you already alluded to one, and then the other one being the thing we both got to try out yesterday. So that was the other gift, and I know we're going to get into that.
I would go so
And
far
then-
as to say we've got 3.
Yeah, and well, I've got 4 because then also my game price cost is going to go down, which I'm happy about. And I've never been more pleasantly surprised to be wrong than I am about this new CEO.
I'm not willing to jump out on that limb just yet, but I do get where
I'm
you're
going
coming
to.
from.
I'm going to. She's done 3 big changes that have changed the face, and I don't want to get into it right now. It probably deserves its own episode, but so pretty happy about that, man. But overall, I'm always happy to be here, of course. So looking forward to it.
Me too. And yeah, as Jay mentioned, we have 2 big, huge things. So we won't bury the lead on the games. Obviously, we've got the new Assassin's Creed reveal that happened just earlier today, and obviously big news, big story. Then we also have the Expanse Osiris Reborn, and we got some 007 updates. I did just want to say one thing that I forgot to mention last week before we get into that, and that was I had a thing happen last week, Jay, that threw me off, and it was weird. My likeness was used in an advertisement without my knowledge, and it felt weird. I
Are you sure it was you?
100% sure it was me. So it wasn't like an ad like online. It wasn't like, they weren't selling Preparation H or anything like that. But it was, I was sent, somebody took a snapshot or a screenshot of an ad they saw on Facebook or a post. It was a promotional post by a park. And this park was having a celebration. They do like a yearly salsa dance festival thing. And they were like, "This you?" And it's like, "Yeah, that is me." It was from several years ago. And my hair was different. I had hair on the sides and everything like that, but it was me, and I didn't know the picture was taken. Not only that, so this whole salsa dancing, as you know, I don't dance. I can't dance. But I was there with an ex of mine, and we were like, there's a Mexican restaurant on the lawn of this park. So you can literally like step over this little fence. And then there's like the Mexican restaurant, the outdoor dining area, the Mexican restaurant. And she was like, "Well, do you want to dance?" I was like, "I don't know how to dance." So she taught me this little step in like 30 seconds. And we were dancing, she was dancing. She was making me look good, and I was just standing there. But in the like the dining area, I got my picture taken while this happened. And it was I didn't know the picture existed. And unfortunately, the sad thing is that it's a great picture. It's a great picture. But, it was an X and all that stuff, so I can't really use it. But it looked great. But it was the most, like, dysphoric thing there for a second where I'm like, wait, what is this? Why am I on a promotional thing? It was weird.
Well, that's cool, though. It's still kind of weird. But, yeah, it's still cool.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So, We will get into the first big story, probably the biggest story of the day, and that is Assassin's Creed. So we did have the reveal today. So we talked last week about how there had been this presentation that had been sent out uh, to select outlets, and this was that presentation. So we got the exact same presentation that select outlets and influencers and content creators got last week. And go for it.
I just want to say this. It's amazing how much this guy looks like. And if you make me feel like an idiot because he is, I'm going to get pissy. But it's amazing how much this guy looks like Constantine from the Arrowverse.
Are you are you messing with me?
I'm not. Is it Constantine from the Arrowverse?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's Matt Ryan. That's the guy that played
Yeah.
Constantine in the
Okay.
Arrowverse. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know his name. So, but yeah, I was like, dude, this dude looks just like Constantine.
I was like, is Jay messing with me right now?
I'm not. I wasn't.
Okay. But yeah, so yeah, we got to see the presentation, and the presentation was great. There's still some concerns that I have, and we'll certainly get into those. But overall, we got to see a lot of what they had in store, and I was
And a
certainly
lot of it looked like gameplay graphics too, which I think is amazing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, absolutely. I was just gonna
It's,
say a lot of it was certainly encouraging. So
yeah.
I am far more confident now than I was. Like I said, I still have concerns, but I'm feeling better about it now than I was before. How about you, Jay?
I am too. I mean, and again, I have concerns, and I think mine were small. We talked, and I'm sure we're about to talk about the paired animation thing, so I'm going to stay away from that. But it did. You didn't need to do a whole lot for me. Improve the graphics, keep the sea shanties, which it sounds like they've added more shanties now.
They have
Which
indeed.
that you can never have enough shanties, and then make sure the naval combat is just as good as it was in the original, if not better. And obviously, I've stayed away from story when we've discussed this, but obviously, I love the story, so I do want it to maintain its integrity.
And they did stress this numerous times throughout this presentation that it is the same story. They did
Yeah,
mention that they were, fleshing it out more and doing things here and realizing more of what the original vision was and this and this and that. But they said that it is the same story. It has the same beats. They're not going to take the characters that we know and love and put them in different situations or something like that that are completely counter to what the original was. They are in fact sticking with the original story, which I mean I expected them to, but it sounded
yeah.
like they stressed it to the point that I am guessing that it will be even more so than I had previously anticipated that they're sticking to it. That's good.
And I got to say this. I was talking to a friend of mine today who never played the original, who's my age and a gamer, but never played the original. And he's like, "You're going to have to sell me on it." And I'm like, "Well, we're both history buffs." And I said, "What makes the golden age of piracy so cool if you're a history person that plays Assassin's Creed for it is that never was there ever a time in history where a group of men that should be vilified were deified." So it's a unique period of history, and I think that's a lot of the allure. And this game gives you a great example or great opportunity to be a pedestrian in this world in this time in history. And Edward Kenway was an excellent character that is believable, and that was another thing. All they had to do was just maintain that. So anyway, and I love this. I love this look right here with the chest pistols.
So I took notes throughout this presentation. So we'll just kind of hit stuff largely in the order that they occurred. But then I also consumed some other stuff and interviews and things like that were supplemental. Other content creators that got early access, that got access to the game director, things like that. So we'll
Yeah.
talk some of the stuff, and I'm sure that more and more stuff will continue to come out in the weeks to come. But one of the things, obviously, the first thing is the graphical upgrade, which is significant. And one thing
Yeah.
that we talk about all the time, whenever you do a remake or something like that, like this is making it look like we remember, not the way that it actually was. And this is definitely a good case of that. And granted, again, the original still looks great, but then you see it compared to here, especially as they do numerous times throughout the presentation where they'll do it side by side, and you get to see the same location or the same character, and you get to see that split screen. You can see the vast difference and improvements just in graphical fidelity and power that we have with the remaster or resynced.
And I'm certainly not bitching about the fact that it's an upgraded version of the Anvil engine that they've been using. So it's probably going to be just a buff on the Valhalla or Shadows engine, I'm guessing. But I'm sure there's going to be questions. Why didn't they go with Unreal Engine 5 and what? But I think a lot of that is tied to their parkour engine. So I'm thinking, and I haven't done the research on that, but I would have to guess that a lot of it's tied to their parkour engine, which I
Well, I
heard is
mean, I,
smoother.
well, I don't have an issue with their engine. I just don't like what
Yeah,
they've done with a lot of the mechanics. So they can
yeah.
do all the stuff, differently in the same engine, and I'm fine with that. But so aside from the graphical upgrade, which is significant, obviously, they've made a number of improvements. One of the first that they mention, aside from just discovery, and there's new things to discover, there's expanded locations, things like that. So, but it's not just above ground. They've actually expanded the underwater stuff. Now, previously there were select areas where you could do a little bit of underwater discovery in certain areas that were outlined or designated, and they've expanded those out. And there's a lot of underwater discovery. I don't know what's going on with your picture right now, but you keep disappearing into your background.
Sorry. No, I was leaning forward because there was something I wanted to check out. Plus, I'm sitting here thinking from our annoying mechanics thing, they could have done away with the eavesdrop quests for me.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into that. Now that you're no longer drowning in milk behind you there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, they expanded the underwater, which I think is really cool. So I mean, and we saw a little bit there with the shark and all that stuff. But I'm excited to see some expanded underwater discovery because obviously they can do a lot of expansion there, and because we got to see very little of it, and
Yeah.
they could do some stuff there, and I'd be really excited to see it, treasure and things like that. So I don't know. What you have any particular thoughts on the underwater discovery?
Yeah. So, and we've talked about this before, not with in relation to Black Flag. I love underwater games, any of them. I even brought up an old PlayStation one that really, really got me into it, which was Treasures of the Deep. I'm really hoping that we get not only the shark and the whaling and the dive bell missions, but I'd really like to see us get to do some wrecks, some like shipwrecks, man. So I think that would be cool. And find some treasure down there or whatever we find down there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So we'll get
And I
to
need to
probably.
step off just a second. Give me just a second.
Okay. Well, I will get to what is probably my biggest kind of concern that remains, and that is the combat system. So we did get to see a lot of or at least as far as the hand-to-hand combat, the actual swashbuckling and that kind of stuff. And we have or we've spoken at length about the paired animation system versus the hitbox kind of system that we have now. And I did not expect them to bring back the paired animation system, though I would have loved for them to. And again, just a quick thing for paired animation, just as a quick example would be like the Batman Arkham games, Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. It's that kind of thing where y basically different scenarios, you striking, them striking, you blocking, all these different things, they can take into these variables, and that associates to an animation that then takes over, and so you get these really elaborate moves and things like that, and they did not bring that back, and again, nor did I expect them to. But what they did do looks like they tried to do the hitbox combat system and make it more swashbuckling. So they did talk about how they wanted to have this seamless sort of switching of weapons. So we get to see sword fighting and then pushing someone away, pulling out a pistol, shooting the pistol, throwing a grappling hook at somebody, pulling them to you, then bringing out the sword again and doing that kind of thing. So they do have that can add some fluidity to the combat. And then I guess the big thing is they have these finishers. So I think that's probably where they're trying to close the gap the most to make it feel like the original is these elaborate finishing moves that previously weren't a thing. So now we're going to have these big elaborate finishing moves, and I think that you can string up to 6 together as you take people out. You can string up to 6 together, I believe it was. And yeah, so that's where we're at. So I'm glad that they're taking strides, and they did mention that it is a brand new combat system. It's brand new animations. They're not recycling animations from Assassin's Creed Shadows or anything like that. So I'm
Right.
glad to hear that. But I am still bummed that it's this hitbox combat system, and they do mention parries, but it's not like the paired animation parries. It's they swing, you block, ting, you see this big spew of sparks or whatever, and then you keep doing like it's not tied to an animation or anything. So I still fear that we're not going to have that same sort of swashbuckling feel.
Yep, and that's one place I think you and I are in absolute agreement on that it made it more like a movie. Did it make it maybe easier? Yeah, but you weren't playing the game because it was hard. You were playing the game because it was fun.
Yeah.
And oh, that's a great. I love the weather effects on the ocean, man. That's going to be so fun to play. But anyway, yeah, and I'm kind of torn with the hitbox part too because there are some redeemable qualities to it, just not many.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't like
so
it.
anyway,
I mean, they could solve some of those problems. I'm sure it will be better than some of the previous entries, but I don't know, man. And I was kind of shocked watching some content creators like Luke Stevens and Mr. Matty Plays and all that stuff. And they were talking about how much they hated the paired animation system, and
yeah,
I guess in
most
their
people do.
in their interviews with Ubisoft, that Ubisoft was saying that, oh well, we changed it because of all the complaints, and that blows my mind because obviously, again, the Arkham series is beloved, and it's because of this paired animation system, and you can feel like a superhero. You can take on all these people at one time, and that's why I loved it, especially on Black Flag, was because it made you feel like, especially with the swashbuckling and things like that, it made you feel like a musketeer. You're watching like the Three Musketeers movie or something like that. You felt like that, where
Yeah,
you were just this superior swordsman that was above the level of these peons. You would have these challenges that would present themselves in other situations with other enemies and things like that. But a lot of these enemies are just popcorn enemies, and you should look like you were far superior to them. And I loved that. So it shocked me that so many people hated the paired animation system. Now, Mr. Matty Plays has had a change of heart. He mentioned that he was like, hey, I'm one of the people that was calling for a change, and then once I got the change, I realized I didn't want it. So he's like, I do realize
yeah.
now, looking back, that the paired animation system was superior, but he
But
thought that this would
we
be a good middle ground.
we also live in an era where there's people either want ridiculously brutally difficult games where that you have to basically perfectly time everything, or they say they do on their content. So it's like it's like trying to hear somebody tell me they love IPAs. But anyway,
Hey, IPAs are great. I do, in fact, love
um,
IPAs.
but you know, I can see both sides of the argument. I'm a bigger fan because of the type of game it is. I think the paired animation system works better. We saw it, and you're the one that brought it up, and now I'm also singing its praises. But Sleeping Dogs, the animations in that were, I mean, they were world class, man, and I would like to see that. So hopefully we get something, maybe with the finishers. Maybe we'll
Yeah, I'm
see
hoping
some.
that the finishers, because I mean, they showed several, and they were pretty elaborate animations to go along with the finishers, but I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna miss. There were times where in the paired animation system where you could parry and then counter and immediately take someone out. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't like, oh, let me hack away at their life bar or anything like that. You felt superior. It was like fencing. I parried and boom, you're gone.
yeah,
It felt. Never in any game, I don't think, never in any of the other Assassin's Creed games has it felt as appropriate, given that this is, again, swashbuckling. That's what they did, and it just seemed to be like this perfect marriage between like the mechanic and the material. And it's gonna be hard not to see it there. But like I said, I am at least reassured that they took steps to make this hitbox system that they are clearly now fully committed to make it feel more flowing and swashbuckling and that kind of more parry rich and that kind of thing.
Right.
I'm glad that they're taking steps. So it's gonna. I'm always gonna miss the paired animations, but it's gonna be a lot better, I think, to play what they've got versus just slapping a pirate skin on Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah. I'm hoping they
So
do something a little better with the wanted system. And I know I've never, it's just like a late addition for me. But once I started thinking about it, I was like, the wanted system was kind of crappy because you'd get wanted and you could either pay off, you could take over a ship and one of the options was to lower your wanted level with it, which I never did because I enjoyed the wanted level. I enjoyed
seems
getting chased.
antithetical.
Yeah. So, but eventually it got to the point where it was like, well, we're going to get desynced right here because I've reached the end of my, it's that 5-star wanted level in GTA where you're like, this is the end, fellas. It's been a good run.
Well, and we definitely have some several things to talk about when it comes to desynchronization. But before that, I do have one thing though, and that is we still don't know, and that is levels. Whether we're going to have leveled gear, leveled weapons, leveled equipment, we don't know. And they didn't mention because again, the quote that everyone kept calling out for the entirety of last week was in this presentation, and that was them saying that this is not an RPG, and everybody was like, "There you go, case closed." No, case not closed because no one expected it to be an RPG. No one ever said it was going to be an RPG. That was never our fear. Our fear was RPG like elements. That is very different than saying it's not an RPG.
Yeah.
Because none of the games are RPGs. None of them are
Yeah.
RPGs.
You can have a non RPG that I still have to collect 300 pieces of soft leather for.
Well, we're going to get into that too.
which to me makes it me playing a role or at a minimum, I'm playing a survivor crafting game, which is also not what I want in an Assassin's Creed title.
But so bottom line is we still don't know if there's a level system. It's very easy to hide that in this. We didn't see their inventory system or anything like that, so we didn't see if any of the equipment or gear that was being worn had rarity colors or anything like that on it. Or I hope not. I hope it's very much like the original, and you earn new equipment, and the equipment's kind of, it's not about levels, it's about stats, where instead of like, oh, I need a level 9 this or a level 10 that, it's just about stats where it's like, okay, let me wear the armor that gives me more speed, even if it reduces my, even if it reduces my damage resistance. I'll wear this though because I need the speed on this mission, or the other way around. I need to be bulletproof this mission, even if I'm going to be slower. That was the give and take that we had in the original Black Flag, is weighing those pros and cons between different armors, weapons, things like that, and we didn't have to worry about leveling things up. So I hope that we do not have that, but we don't have any solid answers on that yet. You'd mentioned the eavesdropping levels, and that was obviously a big part of Black Flag, and we have good news and bad news on that front. The bad news is that they are still here, but the good news is they heard us and they were like, okay, we got to change this. So they didn't explain exactly how it will work, but they've got it now where before, if you got caught eavesdropping, you immediately desynchronized. You had to start over. That was it. You were scuffed. So now, if you get caught eavesdropping, well, now it becomes a combat situation. But they specifically said that it doesn't change the mission. Your mission objectives are still the same. And so I wonder how that can be if the whole thing is to eavesdrop on this conversation, then they notice you, so you take them out and kill them. How do we get that info? Like, is everybody just carrying a letter that also contains the same information? That's one.
Yeah, and if so, why not just go straight for the letter and not have to worry about the eavesdrop?
Yeah, so I'm very curious as to exactly what that means or how that works. But at least it's not an instant desync.
I'm trying
which is an improvement.
I mean, I'm suffering from brain flatulence right now. So there was at least one or two games that I've played where you had to gather intel for a mission, but if you didn't gather all the pieces, you just have to figure out another way to do it. So why not do something like that? I'm trying to think of the game that
Well,
I
I think
played that
this is
was
one
like
of those
that.
things where Deus Ex Machina is one of those that would do it, like Mankind Divided, that kind of stuff. It would do a thing where you would
Yeah,
have to research, and if you didn't know it, you just had to change your plans. But anyways,
yeah.
I think they did the thing where they mentioned multiple times throughout this, and then also in interviews that released after this, that the whole thing with the way that they approached the remake was, is what we're doing in service to the original vision or not? And I think that would probably be a thing where it's too far from the original vision, the original story, and that could create branches and different scenarios that weren't intended. So I'm not, since that wasn't part of the original game. It would have been interesting, but I'm not too concerned. And I'm not even concerned about how this will work, because I mean, the ultimately eavesdropping is it's intel gathering. It's a low. It's not a big deal. It's not, and it certainly wasn't anybody's favorite part of the game. So any way that they can help us make that less tedious, I'll welcome. And I'll be happy about it. I just wonder how they're going to make it work mechanically in game, because it's one of those things like we talked about before, where it's like bad mechanics, where it's like, okay, if the whole thing is like we kill the guy and he just whispers it in our ear as a part of his last breath for whatever reason, that I'm supposed to be at this dinner with Redbeard at 7, like, oh, okay, why would he tell me this? But hey, if that's what gets us out of having to do the eavesdropping missions, I'll take it. But I'm just curious as to what they will do, like how they will get that information to us if we get caught and have to kill people.
My point is, why even make a mission like that difficult? Because in real life, whether you're talking about 1715 or 2026, people walk and talk and have conversations because they feel like everybody else around them is oblivious to what they're talking about. And a lot of times people say shit they probably shouldn't be saying out loud, but why not just let us walk 10 feet behind the people, hear what we need to hear, and then bolt and go do what we need to do? I don't even know why we make that like a failable thing.
Well, it's one of those things. There's no reason to get too deep into this, because I think it's one of those things where it's like it was a mission in the original, so they probably didn't feel good just turning it into a cutscene. So they're like, well, we have to have you do it
Even
since it's
better.
part of the original, but let's
Yeah.
do it in a way that doesn't insta fail. Now, I would be fine if they just turned it into a cutscene, but I
Yeah,
think
we walk
there are
up, we sit
probably a
down on a
few people
bench, and
that
then
would be like,
cutscene.
I want my eavesdropping missions back. Very
Oh my
few, but
god,
I'm sure they
who?
exist. There,
4?
nobody I know. Nobody I know. But as far as other upgrades that they have made for quality of life, we also, a new thing that we have for your ship, have several new things. One of those is officers. We now have officers that can be recruited onto your ship, and those officers will actually give you unique abilities that only that officer can provide. So
So like Origins had.
yeah, so it's like you get this officer and they allow you to fire a weapon this way, or have this particular weapon, or have this maneuver, or something like that. They give you some sort of thing that only they can give you. And I'm actually interested in this. And I think that's a
I'm not.
really why? What's your issue with that?
So, I really enjoyed upgrading my ship and getting my weapons where they were, my mortars, and I felt like I was in complete command of that ship. And I
But you still
it's
are.
not that I don't, it's just that I'm scared that these officers will give you a buff in one area and a debuff in another. And I hate that shit when they do that.
Well, you don't have to accept these officers.
Okay, good.
You can sort them out, you can equip them. My understanding is you do not have to accept any of these officers. They're just something that if you want to, you can put them on there. It's just adding to the it's just adding to your options versus taking any away.
Yeah.
Speaking of options, though, something that we will now have the ability to get. Now they said or, not and. So they specifically said or on this, but you will have the opportunity to add a cat or a monkey to your crew. You
Gee,
will have a
I
you will
wonder
have
what
a
I
you will have a
wonder what'll
ship
be on your
pet.
ship.
I do love monkey. It seems like a monkey is the more pirate answer. I mean, the monkey is
Yeah.
the more pirate. I'm very curious though about that. They showed both. They showed the cat. They showed the monkey. I'm very curious as to what obviously I have to assume there's got to be some way to interact with them while you're walking around on the ship. Maybe just like pop the monkey up on your shoulder or something like that. I don't know. I'm very intrigued, but I think that's a pretty cool little addition that they threw in there, and I'm really excited to see how, because that was always like the ship in Black Flag was like your campsite in Red Dead Redemption 2. It was where
Yeah.
you could come back to meet everybody, you get to make these customizations, you could mosey around, walk around, do whatever you wanted to do. So anything that they can throw in there to give you, I don't know, more options and opportunities, I don't know, I think that's just cool. So I'm into it. Um, you'd mentioned shanties, and that was one thing they mentioned. So the shanties are back, and not only are the shanties back, but we have new shanties, which you also mentioned. We have brand new shanties, and one thing that I learned from one of the interviews was that it was Luke Stevens, and one of his questions that he had asked was, since we're adding these new shanties and we're bringing these shanties back, are we still gathering them the same way that we would before? And if you uh, haven't played Black Flag, the original, what would happen is you would see like a glint, like a light somewhere, and you would
Yeah.
go and chase after that light, and it was this page floating in the wind, and then you would
And
have
some of
to
them were
basically,
not easy.
yeah, it basically took you through a pre-planned obstacle course that you had to run across these branches and slide under this and jump over that and da 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 to get to the end and then grab it. And then you had the musical notes and everything like that, and then you could use that shanty on your ship. So they will still be acquired the same way, which is both cool and intimidating because, like you said, some of
Yes.
those were rough and they were hidden. I mean, there were some of those that I've probably never heard just because I never happened to be in the right part of the rainforest to grab it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, a lot of times too you'd get caught up, like it would be a section of it would be in a, because some of the parkour in Black Flag got kind of wonky if it couldn't reconcile what you were trying to do. And almost always on those shanty runs, you'd have like an unreconcilable little section of parkour that you'd have to overcome. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm still excited. I love my shanties on
oh
there.
yeah, me too. Oh, that was, I would love, like, because you could get to a point where you could fast travel in the game at some
Yeah.
point. I wouldn't use it. I would just,
Yeah.
because I just loved the shanties and the ambiance that you got from it. It was so awesome, and I do wonder. So one of the things so far, all of the rumors that we had heard have been confirmed, except the RPG like elements, which again they have not been outright denied nor have they been shown. So I still am on edge. But literally every other rumor that we heard in the same rumor episode that we did, those have all been confirmed. And one of those was, adding new content, which we'll get to later, but also, I guess this is one that's not 100% confirmed, but they had mentioned that they were wanting to do more with the islands. If you've played the original, there's a set of very small islands very close together that you can go to. Some have like a treasure chest or something like that, but many have nothing, absolutely nothing on them. I mean, there's stuff, there's
Yeah.
trees and whatever, but there's nothing there's no collectibles, there's no reason to be there. And I wonder if some of those islands will be sort of retrofitted to house some of these shanties as like maybe the means, because if they're going to have the original locations for some of these original shanties and they're having new shanties, well, they're going to need new locations. Maybe some of those will be on the islands. I don't know, but could be cool. Could be cool. Um, Speaking of shanties, we'll go ahead and get into the music right now. They announced this later on in the thing, but I saw this and I was so stoked. I wrote this in all caps with exclamation points, and that is that the person that they went to for composition for the music was Woodkid. Now,
From Death Stranding.
from the Death Stranding games, and he's
Yeah.
also done some stuff with them before, in I believe Revelations or whatever. But Woodkid is amazing. I love his work. I am so excited to have him on this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And I
mean,
think it would make for some, I think he would do the eerie very well. And also that, when you would go into like travel mode on your boat and it would do
mhm.
that zoom away, I could definitely hear like a Wood Kid beat hit right after that, like as you're as the zoom out occurs, the fade out. And
Same.
yeah, that would be awesome, man.
Well, those were exactly the kind of the kind of moment that you just outlined. Those were exactly the kind of moments that got me excited for his involvement, because we
Yeah,
have talked about it numerous times. When you play Death Stranding, if you haven't, you should. You should.
yeah,
Walking Simulator, don't listen to him. But when you play Death Stranding, the music is a character in Death Stranding, and the level to which the music contributes to the overall feeling of the game. I don't think I've ever played another game like that, that has the
that's
music
fair.
influence that feeling as much. And there were numerous times whenever, especially after a really rigorous journey that you had been on to get to a particular station, and you'd crest this mountain or something like that, and you've got a downhill walk, the clouds have
Yeah,
cleared,
I
the
know what you're
sun is
is
out, and there in the distance is the station you've been coming for, and you just after all this hard trekking, you just have an easy walk to this station, and it would give you goosebumps because of the music.
yeah.
And
You know what it reminded me of too is, and this is the only other game that's been able to do that for me other than Death Stranding, was the first Red Dead Redemption. When you first unlock Mexico and you can go into Mexico and they play this like Johnny Cash style eerie
mhm.
kind of country western song. And it does the zoom out as you're riding across the bridge into the thing. So the first time I saw that on Death Stranding, I was like, somebody was a fan of Red Dead. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see what we can get with the new dynamic weather. By the way, there's a new dynamic weather system,
Yeah.
the open seas, the improved graphics, and like all this stuff. I'm so excited to see what Woodkid can do with the keys of the kingdom as far as the music aspect goes. So let's see. Next, okay, new quests and storylines, that is confirmed. It had been rumored. It's 100% confirmed now. We're getting new storylines and new quests, new arcs. They mentioned that we would get to learn more about our friends. They mentioned Anne Bonny and Mary Reed and all these people, and long rumored was Mary Reed, one of the cut content from the original game where they ran out of time and they had to cut it. Um, so, and then they specifically mentioned a new arc for Blackbeard. Like they specifically called that out, that there is a new story arc for Blackbeard. And actually, in another interview, I believe also again Luke Stevens, he he found out that the additional content amounts to about 6 hours. It's about 6 hours of additional content that's been added with these new storylines and new arcs. I don't know, how are you feeling about the new storylines, expanded arcs, that kind of thing?
Okay. Well, as long as they don't mess with the original Blackbeard storyline,
They're not. They're not.
I'm fine. Um,
I'm stoked
and
for it.
any more Blackbeard is just more Blackbeard, man. That's going to be great because he was quite the character and such a great and terrible man. But I'd like to see some more on like Charles Vane and those guys, the guys that don't get as much credit. Steve Bonnet, um, and then even the dickhead, the guy that he was a pirate before, and then he came to hunt them down. Um, what's his name? Rogers.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that'd be good. But like I said, any expansion on any of the pirates is going to be a good thing, I think.
I agree. Let's see here. Going through the rest of my notes. Let's see. Of course, we got new upgrades and new crew members. So we talked about some of the upgrades on the ships and things like that. We've got new crew members. Now, to what extent those new crew members are going to be integrated, I don't know. It could be, oh, it's a new officer that you can equip. He's named, and you get
Yeah.
to see him standing on standing on the deck or something like that, and not really interact with it. So they didn't really go into detail on how much some of these new characters are really involved, and I bet a lot of them are probably just going to be kind of like, oh, they're there, but they're kind of off the side. I doubt they're really going to be that intricate to the storyline. They also called out within the presentation that they did numerous workshops with actual like players and fans, obviously under very strict NDAs, but they did numerous workshops and got direct feedback there. So that makes me feel good that it's not just QA testers and that kind of people under Ubisoft's payroll, but
Yeah.
actual fans of the games. So that gives me some hope, especially again talking about the combat system. Um, let's see. There will be no multiplayer, which we had assumed, and there will be no DLC. So no Freedom Cry, no Edwale thing, and I'm actually a bit bummed about that. That
I am
we,
too because Adewale's story was freaking great, man. It was a
yeah,
good story.
I liked Edwale's story. I liked Freedom Cry. So I am disappointed that we don't get that. Now, I don't know. They said that none of the DLC would be on here. I don't know that necessarily that means that no DLC will ever come, but I mean, it would be cool if uh, I'm not saying this is even a possibility, but if this did go really well and they decided to do Edwale's, Freedom Cry, if they decide to redo it, I doubt that'll happen. But I don't know if, again, if everything else is good, if the combat is actually serviceable and good, I'll be happy that we got it, and it won't be that big of a loss. But it is a bit of a, I won't miss the multiplayer. The multiplayer, while an interesting concept, was a little half baked, and it never quite got there. But I am a bit bummed that we don't get Freedom Cry. But
Well, here's the thing too though. Ubisoft now has a Star Wars connection, which by definition gives them a Disney connection. So how about giving us a Jack Sparrow DLC where we have to hunt down and take the Black Pearl?
I think that might be a bit much.
You
I
never
don't
know,
know.
man. A boy can dream.
Well, plus we already have a Pirates of the Caribbean crossover with the other pirate game, Sea of Thieves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Um, modern day, modern day story is more or less removed. So the animus does still exist. The modern day story is still there, but they will not remove you from what you are doing to have you walk around the office. If for, I I don't get it. Some people were very upset that the modern day was going to be removed. It made no sense to me because once they killed Desmond, once Desmond was dead, the modern
What?
day, yeah, the modern day story was
Sorry.
worthless. The modern day story was
Yeah.
worthless, and it was just a means to an end. So basically they said that now, an interview confirmed that now those will essentially be rifts. So like in Assassin's Creed Shadows, they had these rifts where you could play these things at your own pace. You unlock these rifts, and then if you wanted to go into them, you could go into them and play them. So the real world things have been placed under the rifts. Now the game director also said that the modern day aspect was going to be like, how did he word it? I wrote it down. He said the modern day aspect was going to be like retooled to focus on Edward's internal struggles. So I don't know exactly how they're going to do that with the modern day stuff. So I don't know if it's thing of like, and we don't even know if it's like a direct thing of like the same sort of setup, like you're this intern at a game developer called Abstergo, and that whole insanity that was, or if it's like a fully new modern day story aspect that you have access to. But I would say like if it was somebody that was plugged into the animus, maybe they are like discussing what they're feeling as they're playing as him. I don't know. They didn't really go into detail on exactly what it meant. But the good news is, if you don't want to play it, you don't have to play it because you're not ever going to be pulled out of his story. They'll be assigned as rifts, and they'll do that. Anything on that?
No, not at all. I obviously I don't. We've beat this one to death, but I don't want to go to the modern world unless you're going to let me be an assassin in the modern world.
Still, this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to do it, but
Yep.
maybe next time. So the other thing with Rifts though is that they will also have alternative scenarios. So they said that I believe this is one that came out of an interview, but they had said that they obviously wanted to stick to the spirit of the original and all that stuff, and they didn't want to go against it, and they wanted to tell the same story. So, but there are points in the story where you are given options. You don't get to choose which option to take. It just goes down the way of the narrative, but Edward Kenway is offered choices. And they thought, wouldn't it be cool if he went and did this instead of this, and he chose this instead of this? So they didn't change that in the story, but they did offer them as rifts. So they said that they will have rifts that feature alternate versions of what happened so that you can say like, oh, what would have happened if Edward chose this? And you could play through some of those scenarios. So some interesting stuff like
Well,
that.
that's cool.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Whaling. These are some notes that I put together from some of the interviews. Whaling is confirmed to still be in the game in its full
Yes.
form.
Yes.
In its full form was the quote. So it is not removed in any way, shape, or form. It is still there, and it is there in full. So fear not there. That is
What
still
about
a thing.
shark fishing?
So hunting is still in the game, but it is overhauled. So if you recall, hunting, whenever you had to kill something, there was a quick time event that you had to complete to kill it. Like if
Yeah.
you were hunting leopards, there would be a quick time event for your struggle with this leopard. It wasn't just like, oh, well, I jumped on top of it and I shoved a blade through the back of its neck. Shouldn't that count for something? No, apparently not. You had to do a quick time event. No longer the case here. So the quick time event is gone. We didn't get to see how that worked, but we did get confirmation that the quick time events are gone, and we're hunting for different resources and whatever. However, no word on soft leather, Jay. So we'll see what that means for the future of soft leather.
It's hard for me to get behind a game that doesn't force me to farm soft leather. It's all about that.
Yeah. Let's see. We've also got yeah, one thing that kept coming up in interviews was industry standards. Whenever they were talking about the combat system, all the revamps that they were doing to
Yeah.
bring it up to industry standards, didn't really care for that. Still no word on upgrades, leveled gear, anything like that. The original game, so the original Black Flag game, a lot of times whenever something like this happens, where they do a remake or something like that, they delist the original, and you can no longer buy it in stores. You can't download it. You can't
Right.
access it or anything like that. They're not doing that. The original still is happening, so you'll still be able to buy the 2-pack with Assassin's Creed Rogue and all this other stuff. So they're not delisting the original. And the last note that I have on it is that it will have better AI. I mean, you'd figure, but one of the things in the original game was they would obviously it was you could spam stuff where the better AI in Assassin's Creed Black Flag will be essentially aimed at anti-spam. So
Yeah.
if you are fighting a group of people and you are just defaulting to one move, the person you're fighting and those around will start to realize this dude's just doing this one move, and they will start to specifically defend and counter against that move, forcing you to change your method of attack. So I'm actually okay with that. I think that's a good call. But yeah, that's all I have as far as that. So that's all the updates that I picked out of the interviews and the videos that we watched. But yeah, overall, I am excited, very excited to get back in there and play it. And seeing this, I actually got goosebumps whenever they did the thing. Did you watched it from the beginning? Or so
Yeah.
I don't know if the version that you can watch now has it, but if you watched it live, there was it went live 5 minutes before the actual scheduled time. And so I went on there, and during that 5 minutes it showed these in-game environments as weather was hitting it. You saw the waves, and it was awesome. And then about a minute and a half before it went live, you saw a cinematic of Edward Kenway on the shore, and then Blackbeard comes up, and Blackbeard's talking to him, and then we get the first time we actually see Edward Kenway's face. The camera just comes and pushes in on his face, and that was whenever we went into the presentation. I got chills. So that was really cool. I did not expect to get goosebumps from watching this thing. Again, I love Black Flag. It's one of my favorite games. It is my absolute all-time favorite Assassin's Creed game, and it's not even close. And so
It's funny. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say it's funny, but I was thinking back to a conversation I had with a guy in a Kmart about this game a long time ago in Florida. And I was like, dude, I was like, here's the thing. I love Assassin's Creeds, but this is not Assassin's Creed. It's more akin to Grand Theft Auto Pirate than Assassin's Creed. To me, it was. And I realize that's a personal opinion. And that's also not a bad thing. Because just like in GTA where I drive around and just listen to my music, here I am on my ship listening to like you, I did not fast travel. I don't give a shit how long it took me to sail there. We were sailing there, and you bastards were going to sing the whole time, and it was awesome, man. So there was nothing about that game other than the eavesdropping that I hated.
Yeah,
So
it was one of those games where whenever I realized, and I do this with a lot of games, especially narrative driven games where it's not like The Witcher where there's just countless things that you can go off and do on the map. But whenever I
yeah,
realize that I'm closing in on the end of that game and I'm really loving that game, I stop. And I'm like, I try to do anything else,
yeah,
anything other than finish the game, just because I enjoy that world so much. And I think we're gonna have plenty here to deal with. So, I'm excited to get to go into it again. I am still nervous about some of the mechanics, like the combat, and how well that will be able to replicate some of that swashbuckling feeling while still being tied to the newer hitbox mechanics and uh some of the other stuff that's in there, like the leveling. I really would like some confirmation that the level, there won't be level gear, there won't be leveled equipment. Again, they said was it's not an RPG. That's it. That's all we got, and we never
yeah.
thought that it would be. But again, it's really easy to hide the stuff as far as the leveled gear if you wanted to, because you just don't show the inventory screens. Eh, So we'll see. We'll see. And again, one of the rumors was that they started off down that path and then realized that it was a mistake and tried to take some of that stuff out. So we'll see just to what extent that is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to play it. I must admit that whenever it comes out, somewhere back here, there will be Edward Kenway sitting on his throne with a pirate flag behind him because I
Oh
did get the
God.
collector's edition. Whenever I saw that statue, I was like, all right, well, he's going to live with me now. So I did bite on it. So people on TikTok, people on here calling me a hater. I'm not a hater. I just love this game and I am a bit nervous as to what we're going to get. I just don't want them to screw it up because it is one of my favorite games ever and absolutely my favorite Assassin's Creed game ever.
And there's nothing wrong with being the harshest critic about the things you love, right?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are going to piss you off. You're not going to get things you don't like. You're not going to get pissed off about in the first, but you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, Chad and I used to have this argument on the fuel pod all the time because I love Ferrari, but I would cuss them out every week on the show. Like, what the hell were they thinking? Why are you going to pull a car out of the pits with only 3 tires on it?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's no different. And I think we're hardest on the things that we care about.
Well, it's like, I don't I don't care if the Cleveland Browns put one of their cheerleaders in for quarterback, because I don't care about the Cleveland Browns. Like I don't care what they do. So it's like the reason that I'm so nervous and anxious and really hyper focused on this thing is because I love it so much and I want it to be good and I want it to be as good as what I remember. So yeah, we are so passionate and critical because we care.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people. Like there, I just before we went live, somebody was like posted on TikTok where it's like, oh, this hate is so forced. And it's like, there's no hate. I love this game, and we just want it to be good. So all the criticisms, all the fears are just because we have such a love and a passion for Assassin's Creed 4. And we've already went down this path
Yeah.
once before where we got the Skull and Bones, and we want them to have learned that lesson. So far, it looks like they've learned that lesson. Again, I didn't expect them to bring back the paired animation system. I know
Yeah.
that's a lot. So
It's a lot to ask for.
getting what they did show, what they showed looked good. It's all going to come down to how it feels, but we'll see. Maybe that'll be a good middle
Not
ground,
to
or at least close to middle
I'm
ground.
actually I'm actually planning on doing a brand new playthrough of the OG this weekend. Uh, at least just get as far as I can in, kind of thing, and just relive that. whole experience from the beginning. But the other thing is we're going to be coming off of 2 solid months of playing 007
Yeah.
when this comes out. It might, that it'll be time for a scenery change.
Well, and we'll also have some more details on 007 here a little bit later in the show.
Oh, I tried to give you a free segue there.
No, I figured we'd go into the other big one. We'll get because
Yeah, that's true too.
While 007 is hardcore casuals, most most anticipated game of this year, I know that the other big one for our viewers and us as well, we're stoked about this too, is the Expanse Osiris Reborn, but it's not releasing this year. So
Yeah,
it's one of our most anticipated games, but not of this year because it won't be this year. But hopefully they stay on track for next year. But if you don't have anything else for Black Flag, we'll
I do
move on to
not.
that. Okay. So the other big news of the week was the official opening of the opening of the closed beta for the Expanse Osiris Reborn. It went live yesterday, and we got a chance to get our hands on it, play through it, and
And I
not.
bet we're the only podcast where we both played on 2 different platforms.
I doubt that seriously, but
I
uh,
don't.
but I'm sure most people played on PC, but um what was I? Oh, yeah. So the bottom line is, if you're curious, if we are heartened and reassured that all of our hopes and our dreams of finally getting that Mass Effect feeling again, like if you're looking to see if we are still hopeful that this can be that, well, consider yourself assured. I will let you know that right up front. I am still very much optimistic about this and am even more so convinced of it after playing this. How about you, Jay? Are you muted?
In my head, when I do game reviews, I always do graphics, gameplay, combat, and user interface. This beta actually forced me into a new format: graphics, gameplay, combat, language, and options.
Before you get too far into it, though,
And I'm
just
not. I'm not going to get into
are you
that.
heartened? Is your chest full of hope?
My chest is absolutely full of hope. I still think this is going to, given the time that we have the beta until the release, yeah, they're so close already. I mean, there's a bunch of little things they need to do.
Which we
But
expect. That's their whole point, is that
and
they're putting this out there so that we can tell them these things.
and for anybody that watches this, I've read 9 of the 13 books. I think there's 13 now. And obviously I've watched the series. I've rewatched the series 2 or 3 times. It captures the essence and the aura of the Expanse perfectly, as long as nobody's talking, but we'll get to that in a shortly. But yeah, anyway, yeah, man, I love it. And as much as I'll pick on people a lot of times for tearing into a beta or early access, I'm like, dude, give them time to work on it. I don't want it to sound like this when I say it, but it felt short because I enjoyed it, man. You don't want things that are fun to end, and it does end.
I do want to set
Obviously.
expectations up on this too, because it's like that's another thing. I think some people's expectations might be not in line with what is actually happening, just because usually in the gaming space, whenever we hear, oh, there's a beta, there's this, there's that, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
the beta 3 weeks before the game releases. That's not a beta. That is a stress test. That's not a beta. This is actually a beta. Like it's at least a year until this thing releases, and I'm not entirely confident that they'll
We
hit.
haven't even got into open betas yet. God, I feel like Owen Wilson from Armageddon. Dude, we haven't even reached outer space yet.
Yeah, so the whole point
yeah.
of this beta is to tear it apart, is to say, to play it and say, hey, this is what I thought you did great, and these are the parts that I think suck, or whatever. Like, that's the entire point. So if I think it's going to be a great game, but if you're wondering, if you're sitting on the edge, should I buy the Miller Edition or the Collector's Edition or whatever, just so I can have access to this beta? If you are wanting that to just sort of like get jazzed and feel the Mass Effectiness again, I'd say don't do it. I mean, if you want to buy it, if you're sure you're going to get it, go for it. But it's not going to do this thing. It's not going to fill the gap between now and then. It is
just go play Mass Effect.
Yeah, this is that vertical slice that you always hear about in like when in game demos and in media where they took an even briefer snippet than I anticipated of the game that just happens to encapsulate speaking, shopping, uh, persuasion, combat, and pathing as far as multiple paths. Like it's a very brief story or a very brief section that just happens to include all of these things. And also, if you do play it though, don't do your objectives right up front because if you just straight up do the objectives, that thing's over in 20 minutes.
Oh yeah,
Like immediately that thing is like going to
my
be
first run was
done.
just straight through, dude, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what?"
Yeah, if you want to get the most out of this,
Yeah,
kill time, walk around, don't go talk to O'Connell, okay? Hear
yeah.
my words,
Go
don't
get
talk
what's
to
his name's
O'Connell.
mother's gift for her. Go do that,
Larry
and
is
yeah,
Larry's his name.
Larry. Yeah.
but but okay, so you look like you had a pretty well structured summation of your thoughts, so I'll put you in the driver's seat, in the cockpit of our breakdown of this, and I'll follow
Well,
your lead on this, Jay.
I do not want to dominate this part of it. So what I will say is, if you have um things for these categories, that's make sure you
Oh
bring
yeah,
them
I'll
up,
chime in.
and then you've probably got categories I don't have. We always do that. So my first one, I'm just going to go, and this is, people can say whatever they want about being superficial, but the first thing we're always going to notice is the visuals, the graphics. And folks, if you're on the fence about getting this on PC and or console, and you have both, based on the beta, I'm saying it's not going to matter. I'm
Yeah,
hoping they flesh it. I'm hoping
I
they
was gonna say you
flesh it
played
out.
on PC. I played on
I'm on
PlayStation, and yeah, it
PC.
was great.
I played it on PC, and it looks good. Does it look like Star Citizen? No, no, it does not. Um, does it?
It looks like Mass Effect.
It looks
It's
like
like
it looks like if we're getting Mass Effect resynced, to reference our previous story.
yeah, it's like
Um,
the you're not gonna like it's one of those things where the NPCs
yeah,
like if they are a notable character, they look amazing. But
yeah,
if they are a throwaway NPC or God forbid your created character, very smooth. There are no pores to be had. Like you are a very smooth skinned,
yeah.
person. Yeah, you look almost plastic. That could also obviously change, but the disparity between the NPCs where they spent their time and the NPCs where they didn't is very noticeable.
And I will say this: I screwed up on my first playthrough. So when you go into the options, most of the options tabs, you don't get to scroll down. Like, everything that's available is right there. On the graphics one, I didn't scroll down, and I missed out. So when my first playthrough, I didn't have DLSS on, I didn't have frame gen on. So the second time I played it, I went in, I turned on DLSS, but I didn't get to pick what DLSS I wanted to use. I did get to pick my FSR, my frame gen. So, and it did make a noticeable difference, but still, it's not Star Citizen. It's not even Crimson Desert. But it does look fantastic. So I don't want to undersell it with that. But that's all I got on graphics.
Well, I will also
Um,
say that the graphics
Go ahead.
themselves, certainly, and I think there's gonna be more done to it. I think that they're
Yeah.
gonna do more as far as like textures and probably filters and things like that to make it a little bit more gritty because that's one of the things that we love about the Expanse is that it feels gritty.
It
There's
feels
engine
lived in.
rooms. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's grease and grime and things, and I think that's
Not only
probably
does it
gonna get
feel lived in, it feels lived in for a long time.
yes. It feels like it's had multiple owners. It's been lived
Yeah.
in so long. Uh, but I will say one thing that actually impressed me. Like usually I wouldn't have even noticed this, and I don't even know why I did, but it
Wait,
really
what?
jumped out to me, and I don't know why. but during conversations, maybe it's because I'm a hand talker. Obviously, I'm a hand talker. But during conversations, like especially whenever you go and you speak to the shop owner and you get to persuade her into like sharing gossip with you, the way that you move while you talk is really natural. Like in Mass Effect, you're very stiff, you're very upright, and it's just talk talk talk. The face would move,
My name is
but in
Commander
the
Shepard.
convers
This is my favorite store
yeah,
on the Citadel.
but in the conversations here, they're very animated, and that it
Yeah.
feels natural. People move like they would naturally move. They move their hands, and the way they move their hands makes sense for what they're saying. Almost like they motion captured specific conversations for throwaway things, like a shopkeeper giving you gossip. I don't know why it stood out, but it caught my attention.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I thought that part, minus the actual talking, I thought the
Which I'm sure is on
movement.
your list.
Oh man, I'm really dying to get to that and options. But you're right. I mean, the fluidity of how people moved and talked. I really love it.
I
My
do want to
next
point out one
part.
more thing. Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I
Sorry.
keep
No,
I
go
keep
ahead.
being like,
No,
wait,
finish.
no, don't go.
But
One more
wait,
thing though
there's more.
that I also noticed and was happy to see. I was impressed by. So first of all, whenever you select your character, it's Belter Officer, Belter Hacker, Earther Officer, Earther Hacker, and it doesn't tell you what that means. Like you'd say, like, oh, what does a soldier have that a hacker doesn't? What are the soldier
Right.
like? Usually, there would be like a thing where you would see like, what am I picking? So whenever I selected it, I thought, I tried to pull some, I couldn't see any. So whenever I selected, I thought it was going to be like, oh, and tell me, what does the officer have to provide? Nothing. It doesn't. But so the selection there is not great, but it's just a beta. I'm sure that'll be fixed. But I have played both as a belter and an earther, and
Same.
the belters are tall. Like the belt, they have the height
Larry, did you
discrepancy.
see Larry over
Yeah,
over the?
well, if you pick the belters, whenever you're talking to O'Connell and you're the
Yeah.
belters, those chicks look like the avatars, like
Yeah.
the Na'vi whenever they're
The
talking to
Navi.
O'Connell. They like tower over that guy.
Yeah.
So and for those listening that
Which
aren't
is
familiar with the Expanse, this is one of the things from the Expanse where belters have lived. They were born in space, they've lived in space, they grew up in space, so they've never had real pull. It's always been artificial gravity, which is much lighter than Earth
yeah.
gravity. So because they don't have this constant pull of Earth gravity, they grow taller because they're not under as much stress. However, the disadvantage there is that their bones and their muscles are
Are
weaker and
brittle.
they're not as strong. So they're taller, but they're weaker. And
And
sometimes they
man,
have to wear particular suits. So they thought of that and they incorporated it into this. And I was really impressed to see that. And it is a significant height difference.
what impressed me about that is that they went more with the book than the television show. Because in the book or in the television show, yeah, they're all skinny, but they're not towering. Josephus Miller should have been towering over Holden, and he wasn't. Although I am so glad they got Thomas Jane to play Miller. But in the book, yeah, it's they play that out more in the book, and it looks like the game guys, the devs, were like, yeah, we're gonna go with the book
Yeah.
description over the show. Which, so at the very least, that tells me they've had conversation on what's more important from the show and what's more important from the books. And the cool thing about this beta is you could see both, which I thought was neat. But my next part, I'm gonna
You're
wait.
free to go.
Cautious pause. Is gameplay. Now, folks, when you watch big game media, like let's say somebody like IGN, for instance, and they do gameplay, it includes all the gameplay. I separate out, so it's important when I talk about this that I'm separating combat from gameplay because to me they're two different things. And so let's get into the gameplay piece. I loved the movement. I especially love sprinting because it wasn't really a sprint. It was that
Yeah.
that kind of mechanical. Because even in gravity, it was still fake gravity, right?
Yeah.
But dude, when we got to, and I texted you and said, "Man, this zero G shit is tense." because it felt really cool. And you had made a comment when I spoke to you at lunch yesterday that they kind of come at you from different angles. And I thought, okay, he's talking about zero G, so they can be anywhere. And to them, they're level, but they're shooting at us at a weird angle. And even if we're behind cover, they'll hit us. And that's true. But dude, like when you would like cross up and go over something, it was like that. I actually felt that in my stomach, kind of thing. And when you started shooting and it sounded muffled, okay, that's combat. But still gameplay related. Um, Everything was muffled and it had that. And the Expanse always went for what we call Newtonian physics, where you don't hear anything in space, but they also know that doesn't sell well.
Yeah, well,
Like,
and also it's going to be, especially if you're in an extended sequence and you hear
yeah,
nothing.
and you
Like,
hear nothing.
so I think that was
Like,
a good compromise.
yeah, and it worked for 2001 and they blew it. So anyway, they got the one shot at it. But so they kind of do this kind of halfway Newtonian thing where you can barely hear it and it works. And but just the gameplay, opening doors, I did think you had to get super close to stuff before you could interact to it. I did feel that way. And I hope they fix that. Cuz I was like
You
with
could,
doors it felt like I was like nose on the door before I could open it.
yeah, you're definitely correct. You definitely have to be right up on it. You can at least see that you can interact with it. You'll get like this little
Yes.
circle. So you at least you do know that you can interact with it without getting that close, but yeah, to actually activate it, you do have to be like right up on it.
And they do use some classic video game tropes when you like look over and there's a chest or like a shelf, and one of the chests has a green light on the front of it, but the rest of them are okay. I can open that one,
Mhm.
type of deal. I did like the little circles over corpses that let me know I could search them for loot. It felt weird that it would be like 1 in 5 people that I could search for loot. That felt weird,
Well, I
and
think a
maybe
lot of
they
them
were
though
trying
because
to,
they dropped ammo and you would automatically gather the
yeah.
ammo.
Which I do like the fact that I automatically pick up ammo. Very Mass Effect 2, because Mass Effect 2 was the first one that switched to the thermal clips that we had to pick up instead of the cooldown. And the fact that you auto pick those up is great. Um, and I felt like, too, maybe they were slow playing looting so that we didn't get like OP and that we always felt a sense of tension, which I did. Um, I felt like the map, the mapping through the levels was fine. I never felt confused about where I was going or what I was doing. Even if I wanted to go off on a tangent, which we talked about, you definitely should do if you play the demo,
Yeah.
and just go do my own thing. You always felt like you knew where you were going, which is
Also,
fantastic.
small thing about that, as far as going off and doing your own thing in the demo or in the beta, is
Yeah,
also I did this too because I went and I was talking to the shopkeeper and she sells a shotgun. There's some other stuff that she sells, but one of the things is a shotgun. And if you've gone around and you've done some stuff, you will have found some credits that would allow you to buy that shotgun.
yeah,
And but the first time, my first playthrough, I was like, well, maybe there'll be something else that I can buy and I should do that. And especially whenever you talk to Larry and he's like, oh, I've got this painting. Can you take my painting to my mom whenever you go off, to the world? And so I thought we were going to be on for a lot longer ride than we got. And so I
yeah.
didn't buy that shotgun. Buy that shotgun. Buy the shotgun. You don't get to use the credits for anything else. Buy the damn shotgun. So that would be my advice to you. Also, one of the things would be there were a couple times that I felt confused, and I'm sure they will add tutorials in the actual game. But they threw in game mechanics without telling you how they worked, like the hacking game. It's pretty quick to pick up, but
Yeah.
whenever you first do it, you're like confused, like how does this work? And it's basically you have to flip through these squares and basically line up the lit up sections so that they're touching. And then, so each square has like a left side and a right side, left pattern and a right pattern. So you always have to match the left pattern of the new square with the pattern that's on the right of the previous square. And you have to do that until you link up at the end. So it's pretty intuitive. But then there was one mechanic, and I was actually happy that I found this because I was talking to Mr. Matty Play, or I wasn't talking to him. Sorry, I was watching his interview, I was watching his video about his playthrough experience, and he was talking about there's one part where you go into like this room, this barracks, and something pops up on your screen, and it's this green circle, and it's got another circle like that's all shaded in and filled in, and it's going in and out as you look different places. And then if you leave this particular area, it says that it turns red and says it was interrupted and it goes away. But then if you go back, it comes back. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jay?
Yeah, but I didn't do this yet.
Okay, so I can tell you how it works. Apparently, Mr. Matty
Please
Plays
don't.
gave up.
Well,
Not,
do it without spoiling.
yeah,
Do
I'm
it
not going to
without.
spoil what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Good.
just going to
Okay.
say that it looks like, given the way that it presents itself, and then there's no tutorial, it gives you the impression, given that you've got the green circle, like this green outline of the circle, and then this other, you think, oh, I've got to
It's like
fill
an
this. I've
aura.
got to fill. Yeah, I've got to fill this up. You don't fill it up. You shrink it down. I don't know why I would bet money that they changed the visual design of this gameplay mechanic to make it more clear what you're supposed to do. So do
See, the
not.
funny thing is, I would initially think that you would need to shrink it down.
But see, there's nothing to shrink it down to, and that green outline makes you think that you're supposed to touch the green outline, that you're supposed to fill the green circle instead of kind
Okay.
of close in. So whenever you go and look, there's in fact, if you spend a lot of time like I did trying to like fill out the circle, and I was like up and down, left and right, and I got the circle as much as I could, but still couldn't fill it. Whenever you get to that point, you are facing directly the opposite of what you're supposed to be looking at. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, thanks for the heads up on that, Tim.
you're welcome.
So my
Get a free
next piece is
subsystem.
my next piece is combat. And I'm going to say, and this is always going to come from a position of realism for me on combat, and of course, never shot the weapons from the Expanse, but I really enjoyed the rate of fire and the cyclic speed between the different types of weapons. Oddly enough, I enjoyed the SMG more than the assault rifle, which is weird for me because I typically hate SMGs, and I
usually hate
typically
I didn't even use the SMG because I was so sure I would hate it. I'll go and I'll change it.
since you're going to get me to go in the green circle room, then you need to go use the SMG.
But I also have a
and then
sniper rifle as well.
Yeah,
that I need to get more use.
and I
out
got
of.
some kind of other weird rifle that I never used, which was funny because when I was doing the survey at the end, I had to answer, yeah, didn't use that. And I wanted to, I just didn't use it. The cover mechanics are straight out of the Division plus Mass
all
Effect.
of it is Mass Effect. This is Mass Effect. This thing stole Mass Effect 2's homework and put its name at the top.
I will say the enemy, at least in the beta, the enemy AI hits a lot harder than Mass Effect's AI does. You can be one shot if you are stupid,
and they will come for you.
Yeah, I got one shot rocket hit in the face, and Jay had to revive me because I was like, "Where in the world did that come from?"
Jay is the name of your sibling that is your first companion. Jay
Yeah.
is not speaking of himself in the third person.
That's a fair point. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even think about it.
Jay says.
Jay says. But it's funny in my head. I'm still Jason to me because that's my actual name. But you also have the classic video game trope of the laser red line for snipers, and they are everywhere in this beta. I mean, they are everywhere.
Not only that, usually in games you get the red laser. You're like, oh, there's a sniper. Let me get some.
Yeah.
By the time you're like, oh, there's a boom. You're dead. They got you.
Yeah.
Like you see that, you immediately take cover. It's not like, oh, they're gonna shoot me soon if I don't fight. Like, no, they will shoot you then.
And you have to change cover constantly because they will try to flush you out with grenade. There'll be grenades on you constantly.
Well, that in your cover is also very destructible, especially on the outside.
Yeah. And if they're above you, and we'll talk about this in a second, we can talk about it now. When you get into the 0G section, they can be anywhere. They can be above you, firing down on you from behind cover. And you're like, why am I still getting hit? I'm behind cover. Video game logic says I should not be able to be hit, but you will be hit constantly. the other piece was, and I'll get to this later in the options and tell you why, but and maybe part of this was the science of zero G, but like you can aim at the belt of an enemy and just spray them to the head and they would be dead. Um, which I thought was cool.
And
Part of
once you
that
got
for
to their
me
head,
was,
you also got a very satisfying.
oh yeah, and in zero G it was even better because you got that like that one instant puncture that they knew they were, and they would just float off. And I
Yeah,
was like, yes,
or if there was the
that's
explosion,
perfect.
you got the starfish cartwheel as they just
Right. But then part of me started thinking, what if that was the guy with the loot? And he's just floating off into space. Well, you know what? Oh well. Anyway, the other I don't even know what the other piece was now. That one time, obviously, I had some control issues, and we'll get to that in a second. But overall, I thought the combat was great, both in G and zero G. I would have liked to have seen some space combat in this beta, getting to fire my PDCs and navigating, because I still don't know if we get to fly the ship, and I'm
yeah.
hoping we do.
Well,
So that's a concern.
and this is obviously very, very, very early on in the game
Yeah,
because you name your ship that you will have throughout the game at the end of this beta level. So it's obviously very early. And also, before I get to my combat thing, also want to point out that it's they also make it very clear that it is running concurrently to the show. Like you are running
yeah.
side by side with the show. It's not taking place after the show. You are in a concurrent timeline with the show. And
Well, do we want to spoil that one part from the beta when you first get to the station?
Probably not. But I just want to. But they make
Okay.
it clear though that you are concurrent. Um,
Yeah.
But one thing that I found in combat, so I was in my second playthrough, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my shotgun, and I got the shotgun. I'm like, now I'm gonna use the shotgun. But I was like, I'll wait to equip the shotgun until I know that they're gonna be closer to me, because before that, I'll just use the normal weapon because they're gonna be a little bit further out. And I'll use the assault rifle. So I did that. Then whenever I went to change, I was like, okay, I got them. Now I'm gonna get closer. Now I'm gonna use my shotgun. Can't change your equipped weapon while in combat. That's got to change, man. Like that, because you have one primary weapon, one sidearm. Either give us at least two primary weapons to switch from, or allow us to be able to switch them during combat, because we have in this demo alone at least an assault rifle, a sniper rifle, and a shotgun. You have medium range, close range, and long range. And all of those will happen at every encounter virtually that you have. So you need to be able to switch them. So yeah, the fact that I still could not switch to the shotgun during combat, didn't like that.
Yeah. I didn't bring that up, but now that you said it, it did kind of piss me off too. Although I typically went into combat with just whichever one I had built up ammo for, which is the only reason I even found out how much I love the SMG. It was because I had burnt so much assault rifle ammo.
But then I guess
that
what
I
happens
switched
after
it.
if you exhaust the ammo of your primary and then exhaust the ammo of your secondary, can you not even switch during combat? I don't know. They got to change it. They got to come up with a better solution.
I'm going to agree with you, even though I didn't know where you were coming from with that. But yeah, that's beyond stupid. So
yeah, there's got to be they got to fix that.
Yeah, you can't be
even
smart enough to give us mag boots and stuff, and then not allow us to, reach back and grab a different weapon.
I couldn't possibly reach behind my back. They're shooting at me.
Yeah. Or maybe I had it tactically slung on my front.
It makes no sense. So yeah, that was my big gripe as far as the combat was concerned for the Expanse demo.
Okay, so my next category is, and normally I would just say conversations, but this goes beyond that, and it's going to be language
and voice acting.
If you have what, and voice acting, yes, this is anything to do with language. If you have watched the show or read the books, the Belters use a very specific dialect it's basically called Belter Creole, is how it was developed. And when I chose a Belter as my first playthrough, I totally expected them to hear things like Baratna and, him gonna go fly shit, boss man, shit like that, and you didn't hear any of that. They
Well,
were
you
talking in
did.
this stilted.
There was a time where you play as the Belters. There was a time where they actually do use the words, but they don't hit because they're saying them like they say everything else. There's no code switching or anything like that.
Yeah,
It really is a white girl at the Mexican restaurant that says "Uno más margaritas."
yeah,
It's that. Like
it
it's
was
like no, you can't.
bad.
Yeah, you can't say Beltawala or whatever. It just like some blonde chick that just learned a new word. Like it was rough. Yeah, there was yeah that one jumped out at me too. That one jumped out at me too.
It was. I mean, it was. I mean, it deflated me. I mean, not as much as my next category when we get to it, but it deflated me a lot when I chose the belter, and I was like, well, shit, I'm just going to be an earther. So I
Well,
went
see,
to
this
be an
was
earther, and I was also, and this has nothing to do with language, but I'm upset that my twin looks like a belter, even though we're both earthers.
well, that was another
And he
thing. I
had
hope.
belter style tattoos, and I was like, dude, what the
ah,
shit is going on here, man?
I really hope so. I was like, I wonder if you can have your character be male or female and then your sibling be male or female, but I looked it up and no, they have to be your identical twin. It's not good enough that they're
Yes,
just your twin. It has to be
which
your
I think's a bad
identical
call.
Me too. Me too. And it's because of like, and also I do hope, for the love of God, please let us at least customize our twin, because if it looks anything like the
Oh my god.
monstrosity that walked next to me in the beta, that's gonna throw me out. That's gonna throw me out
Or
of
if
my
it
immersion.
talks
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna
and
get
that's the other
ruined.
thing, is that they didn't sound like at least the men. Your
Yes.
identical twin doesn't sound like you.
Anything.
What I thought was funny is whenever you called me and we were talking about the audio, about the voice acting, and I was like, oh well, don't worry, whenever you get to the women voices that are the belters, it's a lot better. And you're like, oh well, that's what I've played. I'm like, oh, then it's only going to get worse from here. Because like it gets, because the earthers, the male voices are bad.
Oh my
They're
god.
bad. And
It literally
it's
sounds like they invited some actors in and said, "Hey man, just read this real quick on the mic and we're going to record it." With no inflection in their voice, no intonation, no timbre or any type of recognizable candor to their. I mean, it was just like, what the hell is going on, man? And
and
they
even
have
some
admitted to using degenerate or whatever it's called, generative AI or whatever, but I don't know if they used it for this. But man, it was bad.
Well, and it's not even just the player characters, it's also the NPCs. There's an NPC named Larry that we had mentioned earlier,
Oh yeah,
that it sounded like that voice actor, like somebody like saw him walking down the hallway, is like, "Hey man, where you headed off to?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna grab lunch." Like, "You have 10 minutes?" And then they just like shot this thing, because
yeah.
I don't know as if I've ever seen a more unenthusiastic portrayal of anything in my life than the guy that voiced Larry. I really hope, and again, we've got at least a year until the full game comes out. I
Yeah.
really hope that they go back and they really knock out those vocal performances. And whenever it comes to the player characters, I hope it's not the male voice and the female voice. I'm hoping there are multiples of both, because I don't want to get stuck with a bad one if there's only one
Yeah.
option either way. Because I'm not optimistic about that voice acting if that's it. So hopefully they change that. Hopefully they give us more options, and we can kind of have a, and also whenever it comes to your character, I would really like to see them do, also take a page from Mass Effect's book here, and that is have a highly modeled and detailed, like, master model for the male and the female, like the Commander Shepard. There was a Commander
Yeah.
Shepard, whether you picked a male or a female. There was the Commander Shepard, there was the Fem Shep, but there was like a master model where it's like, hey, this is what we have handcrafted for you if you want to use this. And that's all I ever use for my Commander Shepard. I just use that because I loved that
I
model.
didn't.
And so I never did anything. So I would really like to see them have that, where it's like, hey, if we want to go crazy and change our faces and all that stuff, let us do it. But have like a master model where you really focus in and really detail the face and give us something that might be to the level of other the NPCs. And speaking of NPCs, I also want to mention though, as much as I talk about the vocal performances, some of them were fantastic. The I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Zafara?
Zafar.
Zafar, like he was great, and then the guy that voiced O'Connell was fantastic. So it's not like it's all bad. There are some killer voice acting performances in there. I just hope that they can in the year that is to come that they raise the standard on that all around for everybody.
Yeah, I really hope it was that they just use placeholder,
Same, same.
dialogue. So
And models. I don't want
yeah.
my twin to have a mohawk and tattooed sideburns no matter what I do. Like
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how much I need my twin to not have a mohawk. And in this beta, whether you're a dude or a chick, it's a mohawk. Your twin is a mohawk.
And they look like a belter, whether you're an earther or a belter. That's another thing. I think when you're talking about customization of your character and or your twin, I don't think they should give you full access to the like tattoos for belters if you're an earther. I don't think that should happen. I think that should be belter only. It's just this is the way I feel about it. I don't know
You
how
can
other
walk into
people
any
feel
tattoo
about it.
shop and get a tribal tattoo. It's not a good idea, but you can do it.
Yeah. But they have a very specific way they not only speak, which is the whole purpose of this category, but the way they look and the way they carry themselves. And I think those things should be maintained.
Well, speaking of the
But
way they
anyway.
speak, I did like something that they tied in from. I'm sure it's in the books. I haven't read the books, but it's definitely in the show. And that is not only do they have what they say and how they say it, they have motions
The
to
hand and arms. Yeah.
yeah, and you see that in your conversation with Larry, where he has different movements to indicate that like, hey, I'm not joking. This is serious, or all this stuff,
Yeah.
and they have this whole code that they brought. It was great. I was very happy to see that.
Yeah. And I hope they use all those as well. My last category was just the options and specifically the camera options. Although, I'm open to talk about any of them, but this beta, and Russ is laughing at me, even though I'm part of at least 40% of the population when it comes to games.
So I actually looked it up, and it is 5 to 25% of the player base, but more
basically
commonly
40%.
more commonly suspected to be 5 to 10%.
So basically 40% of the population that
almost 40. Yeah, if it's 5, it might as well be 40. Why not? That's how math works.
Well, I mean, if you add 25 and then you said 5, so that's 30, and then you add the 10, that's 40.
Are you going to try to girl math your way?
Yes, I'm going to girl math this right now because, folks, I play with an inverted camera. I've always played with an inverted camera. To me, that's the normal camera, and I get it. And I don't judge people that play normal, but it's funny how people that play normal judge me for playing inverted. If you want to play normal, man, go for it. Like when my kids come in and they're like, Dad, let me help you with this spot in this game because you're old. And I'm like, hold on. And I always have to pause it and switch it back to normal. And I do that. And I don't have a problem doing that. But everybody seems to have a problem with the fact that I like to play inverted. And my thing is this, guys, and it's really, really simple. I play a lot of flight sims. And everybody on Reddit yesterday, that's really, the first comment was always, I'm guessing you play a lot of flight sims. Yeah, I do. But the other piece to me is logic, because your right stick on a typical controller these days, gamepad these days, is typically your free look or your aim. And if your hand is on the top of your head and that head is the top of that right analog stick, when you pull that stick back, which way do you look? You look up, not down. You look up. And so to me, that's just logical. But again, that's just me. I get it. Not judging anybody else, but they love judging me for it. So anyway, we have a demo.
They will cater to your extreme minority by the time the full release comes out.
They're already talking about it, and I was by no means the minority. That was like literally the first comment on the Discord was like, no invert cam? Really? In 2026? So yeah, this is a beta in 2026 that didn't give us the option to invert the vertical cam. Now, I will judge people that invert their horizontal cam. I never understood that. I don't know, but there's a sizable amount of the population apparently that inverts their horizontal, so that when they
Might as
switch
well
to
be
the right, they
40%
look
of them, in
left.
fact.
It's probably 40% at least. So I'll play along with your little game, your little stats game.
My
As
game?
my dad,
This is your game, sir. You're the
as
one.
my dad always said, figures lie and liars figure. But anyway, yeah. So it did make it a little bit of a chore for me to get through the demo at first. But you know, I've been playing games for a long time, so I did get the handle on it. Of course, I went back to Genesis right after I finished the demo, and you know what happens? I go to press up and I'm looking down. I go to press down. I'm looking up for like the first 10 minutes of play. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to bed. But anyway, yeah, I just felt it weird that wasn't an option. And as far as other options, like I've already mentioned, and I know they'll be there later, but like the more detailed graphics options that'll be available. Also notice, and I thought it was funny, not that I ever use this because I don't. It was weird that we didn't have an accessibility tab. Normally you have an accessibility tab.
Oh, I mean,
in
that'll
today's
obviously be
games.
added before
Yeah.
the game comes out. For sure.
So anyway, that was weird, but that's really all I had, man. But overall, as a beta to a game that's not coming out for a year,
A true beta.
a true beta, I have to say, and a closed beta, because typically once a game goes open beta, it's close to releasing. But man, if I had to give it a grade out of 10 for a game that's not coming out for a year, I'd give that beta an 8 easy. As far as expectations and hopes, and they're fulfilling a lot of the things that I wanted already.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations. I just had hopes. All I wanted was I just wanted to play it and feel like this dream
Yeah.
that they could be the second coming of Mass Effect that BioWare seems to be unable to create. That's all I wanted. I wanted to say like, okay, we've unfairly or otherwise, we have foisted these dreams onto them, and they have so far seemed content to bear that cross and go with it. But I just wanted to see like, are these hopes well founded? And so far the answer is yes. I mean, they did everything that I would want. The combat system, the way that health is managed, all that stuff is straight out of Mass Effect 2. The dialogue and all of that stuff, like, it feels very reminiscent of Mass Effect. I will say that I don't like the dialogue tree, just the way that it looks. You've got the
It
thing
was
that you're
weird,
responding
man.
to. You've got the thing that you're responding to right here in the middle of the screen, and then you have your options appearing here. So it's like, instead of what you're used to, where you've got, wherever on the screen they put
Yeah.
it, they've got what you're responding to, and then all of your options are grouped. It's just weird because you have the thing there, and then on either side of it, so you have to, like, if you want to look at your options, you have to, like, okay, option, skip over the part that I've already read, and then option. It's just weird. It's clunky, and I would bet that it changes before release.
Yeah, agreed. And it's funny, we keep bringing up Mass Effect, and I always think back to the story of how the Expanse came to be in the first place. James S.A. Corey, the author of the books, which is actually two people, the guy that created the lore was actually creating lore for a tabletop like D&D style game. And one of his biggest inspirations was, wait for it, Mass Effect. And his buddy, who became the other half of James S.A. Corey, said, dude, there's too much lore here for a tabletop game. You need to write a book. So it's weird that we had Mass Effect to Expanse to Mass Effect. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of neat. But yeah, I'm still, dude, super excited.
So yeah, if you're
it's hard
interested,
to get too excited right now. It's a year out, and I'm already thinking about still getting more into Crimson Desert and playing 007, and now Black Flag. But I'm still super stoked for this game.
Same. So again, if you're on the fence about buying right now just to play the beta, don't. It's not worth it if you're on the fence. It's not worth
Yeah.
because it's very short. It's very short. It really is just a snippet. I'm not saying it's not good. It's very good. It's not worth it. You can finish this thing in like 20 minutes max if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's a nice little snippet. But yeah, if you're on the fence, just wait. But if you want to just kind of see like how close they can get to the Mass Effect vibes, and you're excited, and you know you're going to play it anyway, why not? It's great. And it's really good to see. I'm very excited, and yeah, I think that they have nailed it. It's one of these. This is the first. I know they're very well established for RPGs, but this is their first third-person action RPG. But man, they're killing it.
And,
They're doing everything that they would need to. I'm very impressed with what they've been able to do.
and I'll tell you, I don't know what the release date on the competing game is, but it still looks good as well. Exodus, man, the one that Casey Hudson's doing, and and Matthew McConaughey. And so I'm anxious to see how that one goes too, especially with the release windows, because I'm pretty sure Exodus is coming out way before the Expanse. So it'll be interesting to see how that all flows, especially as we move into a new Game Awards year. So which I know you are too, but looking forward to doing that again. That's going to be a good time. I feel like
Yes.
we're in for some. I feel like we're in for some really good times. Um, we already mentioned, that we've kind of reached a renaissance in space games, which is fantastic. I love space games, so it's fantastic. By the way, folks, if you didn't watch our show last week, we did our top 5 space games of all time, which was a great
It was
category.
the week before last, actually.
Week before last, actually. So go back and watch that one. But looking forward to that, and of course, James Bond's going to slide in there as kind of a classic debonair spy thriller game. So I'm looking forward to that. But man, just a great time.
Yeah, and speaking of James Bond, yeah, that is our last topic that we will hit on tonight. Again, we had a night of big news, so we might throw in a little
Yeah.
bit of media stuff here at the end. We'll see, but there's not
I
going to be any
doubt it.
big media section. The big stories were Black Flag, The Expanse, and now 007. As we've mentioned, 007 is our most anticipated game of the year here at
Yeah.
Hardcore Casual. Huge fans of Hitman and the team at IO, and yeah, I'm so excited. This was one of those things where we would say, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if somebody like IO got a hold of 007? And then they did,
Yeah, right.
and
a lot of
so-
people played Hitman because it was the closest you could
Yes.
get.
And we've gotten to see a lot of 007 with different things, but they released, and they've been doing this. They've been doing this where they release little chunks, little things. They'll like, hey, here's an interview with the developers, or here's this,
Which I
and they've been
think's
doing a great
great.
job. They've been doing a great job of giving us little breadcrumbs and some stuff after they had to delay the game. So it's been great. But this week they released a new video, and it's called "The Rules of Spycraft." It is 4 minutes and 52 seconds long, and I think that there is a lot of new information here that I figured we would watch and
Awesome.
kind of take a look, see what it has, and kind of like go over the different things as we see them. So let me know if the audio is too loud or anything like that. But we'll go ahead and start.
Will do.
How's the audio?
Everyone,
Welcome to MI6.
Perfect.
To succeed
All right.
in the 00 program, agents must understand a set of rules that will grant them all possible chances.
So far,
to
of course, we
survive.
get to see it. Still
So,
looks
take a
outstanding,
deep
but
breath,
you'll see he's
listen
got.
up, and
There's
you
the
learn how to
main
get the
villain
job done
with
and return
the
to
mask
HQ
that we
in
recognize
one
from the
piece.
collector's edition stuff, and
The
you
first
see him
rule
with
is to
multiple
know how
haircuts.
to blend in. Keeping a low profile while navigating a crowd will help you find different paths to your objective.
Ken Banks, penetration tester.
Pay attention to the surroundings.
I love this
eavesdrop on
bluff
conversation,
mechanic they
and
got
talk
going
your
on,
way
dude.
in
Yes.
With the help of unexpected
Penetration
Relax,
tester.
fellas.
Really?
It's with me.
Once trespassing,
I'm
slip
sure that
past
was
your
very
opponents
tongue-in-cheek.
unnoticed, or
Yeah.
use
Well,
takedowns
Bond's
to
always been
silently
tongue-in-cheek.
get rid of them. When confronting a whole group of enemies, you may choose a gentler approach.
And hut. Rob Minkley, Crux Magazine.
Bluffing is an art that
I want you to look here. So we've got Bluff 2, Lure 2.
will
So
serve you.
I'm very curious as to how this works. So
It's probably your skill rating in each one at that point.
well, so or is the lure an actual thing? Because it looks like you press up on the D-pad, or is it something you like throw and you have two of them? I don't know. I'm wondering if this is a thing where
Wow, that's a
you
good point.
have an option or it's like an action and then a cooldown, or like you said, if it's a stat point, or if it is a some sort of token or something like that. I don't know, but
Not to mention, what if he hadn't come around the corner and he got the eye line of just one of those guys and was like, "Hey, buddy, come here for a second," and he actually lured them over from,
yeah,
I don't know.
and we don't
It's all
know.
speculation.
We also don't know because obviously a big thing in Hitman was taking clothes and dressing as someone. I don't
Yeah,
know if they'll do that in 007 because that might be a little too
on the
campy
nose.
for what they're doing with 007.
Yeah,
Because the whole thing in Hitman, it was like, okay, you hit somebody, take their clothes, and they had a full beard and long hair, and you have a bald head and nothing, and everybody's
right.
like, oh, I mean, he's wearing the same Hawaiian shirt, must be the guy. So obviously it was very tongue in cheek kind of way that they
Yeah.
did it. So I'm very curious as to how they're going to handle it. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Well, whether getting caught red-handed
Over here. Looks like a trust fall gone wrong.
or to simply pass through a room under enemies' noses.
Oi, you lads got a faulty coffee machine?
Oh, there we go. We just see the bluff and the lure went down to 0.
Bluffing consumes instinct and
Oh.
won't be available if a more experienced enemy is nearby. In this scenario, you won't get far without the appropriate gear. Therefore, the second rule is to always come prepared.
Well, what are we waiting for?
MI6 will keep its doors open for you.
I do like
between
the idea that
missions,
you
giving
always have a way to escape. Like if you're in a room where a bluff isn't going to work, but you still try one, you can still go the full Jason Bourne route of taking the guy down.
So
So
this is one of the big points that was great that I am excited for that here, and we'll hear more about it as we play it. But they said that this is it's always open to you, so that you have a headquarters, you have a hub world here.
I
So
w-
when
can I just say this real quick? Because
yeah,
this is a huge Easter egg. So James Bond's front is always, "I'm James Bond from Universal Exports." So I think that's cool that they paid homage here to do it that way too. But that's neat.
yeah, but I'm just excited that we have a hub world. So in Hitman, there was no hub world. There was no. It
Yeah.
was just level to level to level. You had a briefing and you would have like a planning session. But there wasn't a hub world. But here, you actually will go from levels to the hub world, and you can interact with people in the hub world. And they also make allusions to being able to keep up with people between missions. So it'll be like one of those things where the further you get into the game, the more you get to know people. So it's like, oh, I just did a mission. Oh, this person has something to tell me. This person has something new to tell me. So I love that. That's kind of like the ship in Mass Effect, where you go out, you do something, you come back, and then talk to everybody that's got something to say, learn more about them, up your relationship, whatever. But it seems like they're going to be doing that here, along with being able to develop and test new weapons through it as well.
the chance to catch up with familiar faces, gather intel, and prepare for your next move.
So your name is Moneypenny.
Now let's not get carried away, James.
QLab, on the lower level, will give you access to a wide range of gadgets.
Nice.
I like it. Don't change a thing.
Each tool is designed to go unnoticed on the field.
Also
but
mentioned
help
on the
with
lower level,
maximum
so we're going to get to
efficiency.
freely go up
Follow me. I
multiple
have
levels. It
something
sounds
for you.
like.
This Omega Watch
Highlight
display right
useful
here is awesome.
information
When
about
I
opportunities
thought it
and
was there,
hackable
but
devices.
I think
Your
it's,
Q
yeah,
Watch
there it
should be
is.
able to activate these to
That's
divert
freaking sweet.
attention, deactivate cameras, or get rid of unsuspicious enemies in creative ways. The dart phone can quietly move enemies
Ah, I
out of
love
the
that.
way. The smoke pod,
Dart phone.
a timeless classic, will block visibility at short range. The modified earbuds will produce a flash of light to stun opponents. Other gadgets will be developed in due time and will help you stay creative in all circumstances.
Who do you work for? Take the shot!
Knowing how to improvise is a matter of life and death in the midst
This
of
is what
action.
you had always talked about, is the improvisation of 007 and how they would have
Yeah.
to make sure they nailed that on, apart from the Hitman DNA, because the Hitman thing is always like hyper planned out and meticulous. And
Yes.
you had pointed out that one of the things about James Bond is they always do have a plan, but that plan almost always goes awry. And then part of what makes James Bond is thinking on his feet.
Yes, absolutely.
So I love that they've thought about that and that they're implementing it to this degree.
Well, I always think, and granted, there's so many Bonds that do this, but one of the great scenes from most recent times was in Casino Royale when he gets poisoned at the table. His drink gets poisoned. You talk about thinking on your feet, like on his way out, he grabbed a glass and he grabbed a salt shaker and he grabbed a, so he could try to dilute the poison with salt water. And I mean, so many things. And then having to get back out to the car and get the defibrillator out and get that hooked up. And I mean, just snap decisions that he's got to make. And yeah, so I like the idea that they're going to let him improvise.
Any object at disposal could prove useful to put an enemy's idea. The same could be said of guardrails, electrical panels, or any surface hard enough to act as a weapon.
Little sleeping dogs action
That's
here.
exactly what I thought when I saw
MI6
that.
grants you a license to kill, allowing for even more possibilities to get rid of hostiles. In these situations, any weapon could be used as long as you manage to obtain it. Switch between different playstyles to catch your attackers off guard. And don't forget to...
I love that, man. Walked over the SMG, boom, kicked it up into his hands. Love
Yeah.
that ability to just pick up whatever weapon is available.
return what you borrowed once out of ammo.
There you go.
Some
We
enemies
talked about that too. Like I said, return it once it's out of ammo. And so, yeah, using them as a thrown weapon after they're out of ammo, that's going to be so much fun, dude.
Be harder to defeat, and gadgets will help you get rid of soldiers' armors, stun tenacious leaders, and defuse grenades with the simple press of a button from your watch. Focus training will also give you an edge over your enemies. Dilate time and incapacitate their legs, or disarm them with the precision of a marksman. All of these skills might be trained between missions in TACSIM, the department of Dr. Selena Tan.
Welcome to my dream factory.
TACSIM will put your skills to the multiple types of challenges,
So
each
this
with
is-
its own specific rules
Oh, this
that
looks
pitch your
cool.
performance against
And this alludes to
those of
something
other
that you'd
agents
speculated
from
about.
around the world. Overcoming challenges will earn you experience points, which you can spend on gadget upgrades, new firearms, and unique outfits to defeat enemies in style.
Oh, there's the Day of the
And
Dead
remember,
suit.
at IO Interactive,
Here we go.
the launch of a game is only the start. New content for TACSIM will be created over time.
Faster, James.
I can't hear.
Sorry about that. Trying to
That's all right.
manage. But yeah, so that's the thing. That is how they're going to try to work in the things that you had speculated about, as like some of the DLCs, like you had talked about how we were almost certain that they would take former, like very famous missions from other movies and things like that and work them into the game.
Yeah.
And clearly they can do that here. They can just say, oh, and put those as new scenarios in this sort of like training kind of environment. So I think that will be the avenue that they will kind of do those big homages and stuff like that to the former movies.
Brother, I just got to say this. It is almost never, and I want to say never during a development of a game where I don't have any concerns. But I am so impressed with every single thing we have seen on this game.
Yeah.
And I never want to say it's going to be impossible for this game to fail. But the devs have been forthcoming. They've showed us actual gameplay. Nothing's been a tech demo or just cinematic.
They haven't been hedgy about any questions that
No,
were asked of them.
not at all. And
You never got any PR answers on it.
yeah, it was not a corporate buzzword exercise every time they spoke. And dude, it just looks
They weren't
like
trying to
it is gonna
reimagine.
be- yeah. It looks like it is going to be a phenomenal outing for IO right here.
Yeah,
And plus
I'm with
they're
you.
operating on, unlike Owlcat, they're operating on a style of game they've been doing for years.
Yeah, obviously they're putting some new twists on
Yeah.
their Hitman formula, but that Hitman formula, I mean, how many games have they made now in Hitman?
Oh
I mean,
my-
this is well-worn territory. They know what they're doing, and they have such a solid foundation to build this game on. I mean, yeah, like you said, I have seen absolutely nothing whatsoever that has made me nervous or given me pause about this
Yeah.
game ever since it was, because we had talked about that. I don't remember if it was on the show or not, but we had talked about, wouldn't it be cool if IO got 007? And then whenever
Yeah.
that was one of the announcements, as soon as that was the announcement, I have been nothing but excited ever since. I have no concerns whatsoever.
and I think they've made 8 Hitman games.
Jeez.
So yeah, lot of institutional and tribal knowledge there to sift through to get to this point. And I'm sure they've probably wanted the 007 license for probably as long as they've been making Hitman games because it just fits. And again, this is not a Hitman game. We've already seen things that would never
Yeah,
work in a Hitman game, but they've taken that DNA and expanded on us and given us they're giving us what we want, man. They're giving us the James Bond we want to be when we play a game. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And get ready as new challenges lie ahead to put your 00 skills to the test. Finally,
I'm excited to see how the driving
an
feels.
agent is never as
Yeah,
good
me
when
too.
surrounded by allies, a team ready to give its all in the field.
I'm sure it'll
and
be very
companions
limited,
to
like whenever they
defend.
did it in
But
Uncharted.
we're pretty sure you'll figure out this part yourself when the time comes. See you on May 27 to join the program and discover Bond's adventures in 007 First Light.
Earn the number.
earn the number. That's freaking cool, dude.
Yes, it is. All right. There we go. So, yeah, I am excited for that. And like you said, they're giving us what we want. Yeah, I've got no concerns. I mean, we know that some of the things that they are already doing, we did a video over it. They're already making some tweaks to their Hitman formula, like we talked about in Hitman. If you go in, you have a plan, and then anything goes awry, someone's alerted, the whole area is alerted. If you're on that island, that vacation island or whatever, the whole island knows you're there. They know exactly where you are. They know you're not supposed to be
Yeah.
there. Everything just goes to shit. So, and then you got to get out of it. But here they have it segmented. So, okay, just because you made a mistake, somebody caught you here, you improvise, you do a little CQC, you take those people out. If nobody else sees it, you're good. It's not like Red Dead Redemption where you just become a serial killer just because you accidentally bump somebody too hard with your horse, and then somebody in the distance is like, "Hey, I'm
Hey!
gonna tell somebody," and then you gotta like run, and you gotta kill them, and then you hear, "Hey." What did you? Then you just end up like it's just like there's so many bodies. I just wanted to
It's
get to the general store.
I swear, man, it's not me, it's the system. The system
Yeah,
ran
man.
this.
So here, somebody sees you, just boom, 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 knock out a few people, and
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, now we can just go about what we had planned. So I mean, they've already made some really significant tweaks to the formula, and yeah, I am so excited to see not only what they've done, but how many levels we get to do it in, what we get to do after it's over, what they get to introduce is, kind of their replacement for the world of assassination. Whenever they have these like
Yeah.
timed events and things like that, I'm sure they're going to do that in 007. I'm so excited to see all of the different ways that we can interact with the world that are going to be new and different apart from the way that we would in Hitman. I'm so stoked for this game, dude.
Yeah, me too, dude. I can't. I mean, and I mean, we're just shit, dude. We're a month away.
It's
That's awesome.
close. It's very
Yeah.
close.
So,
Yeah, May
yep.
27th. But yeah, do you have anything else about 007?
Dude, I do not. I do not. I think we've had a good gaming section tonight. So,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
did 2 hours on 3 games, which I think is unbelievably
it
awesome.
was a big week. It was a big week, and it's all of the things that we are most excited about, because as critical as we were
Yeah.
about Resynced, Black Flag Resynced, again, it's only because we love Black Flag and we're passionate and we don't want it to be screwed up again like they did whenever they made Skull and Bones, whenever all we wanted was more of Black Flag.
Yeah.
So it's not like our fears were unfounded. They've already ruined the chance to do this before, and we've seen what they've done with the more recent entries in the system, or sorry, in the series. So I believe our fears and concerns were and still are well founded, but I do feel much more confident and relieved about what we've seen. I still have questions, I still have concerns, but they are less than what they were
Yeah.
prior to today. And the Expanse, obviously, we're both super excited about that. That's another biggie because Mass Effect is my favorite game series of all time. And
And it will be no matter how good Expanse is for me. I
Oh
hate to
yeah,
say
for
that.
sure. No, I don't. It's it'll still be that for me too. It's just I want something that can carry that torch on, and it seems very
Yeah.
clear that BioWare is incapable of doing so.
Yeah.
So I can't get that Mass Effect feeling from BioWare anymore. They are incapable
Yeah.
of creating that feeling, and I think that Owlcat is very capable. How well they'll do still remains to be seen, but so far I am very optimistic by what they have shown us
Oh,
in
absolutely.
that beta. And then, like you said, a rare instance in 007 First Light where I have not been concerned for a moment since its announcement.
No. Same. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to all three.
Yeah, three very big stories that all happened to land within a couple of days, and
Yes.
just sort of won the day. So
And
that was
also, folks, for all you James Bond movie buffs out there, they also released the lyric trailer this past week or week and a half ago of was it Lana Del Rey? Is that her name?
Lana Del Rey. Yeah,
Yeah, and she sings the main song. And if you're a Bond fan, as soon as you hear that, you don't even watch the video, just listen to it. The first few notes of the song, you'll be like, yeah, that's a freaking James Bond song, man. It's perfect. So really looking forward to everything. The music, Lenny Kravitz. I can't even. That's going to be awesome. I got to watch, like, there was another one of these like dev videos just on his bit, and it was 4 or 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but also excellent. So he's a decent actor, man. I don't think he
Oh
gets
yeah,
enough credit for that.
he's been in quite a few things now. He's pretty well established.
I mean, he was in
As
Hunger Games, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. And also, just one last little thing regarding 007 here. So let me bring this up. This is one thing that I wish they would give us more information about. And that is this guy right here as I put that on stage. So they have two, I don't remember what they call them, but there's basically two collector's edition packs for the James Bond game for 007 First Light. One, the big item is a replica of the Golden Gun, the very famous Golden Gun from 007, and it's got a display case and everything like that. The other is a mask, and it is this mask. But that's it. We don't know why that mask is significant, and I wish that they would talk a little bit more about who this is. Is this, the agent that went rogue? Is this something else? What is this? Who is this guy? And why
You
is
know
that
what's
mask so
funny?
important that it would be one of the collector's bonuses?
And I mean, I'm going to show my age here, but there was a movie in the 80s about King Arthur called Excalibur. And it's widely considered one of the better tellings of King Arthur in movies. And
Has
it
a
has a
young
very
Patrick
young,
Stewart in it.
there's a young Patrick Stewart. There's a very young Liam Neeson in it.
Yes,
And of course, the antagonist for King Arthur was always Morgana, or Morgan Le Fay, if you do it in the French. But her son, Mordred, wore that mask in that movie, which I thought was, when you showed this, I was like, shit, that's Mordred from Excalibur. But that was the armor that he wore in the at the battle at the end when Arthur was killed. And so I don't know, but that would be an interesting like tie-in if it's something to do with that, or I don't know what his name is.
I don't know. Again, we've got the Golden Gun as one of them
Yeah.
from, very famous. So I have to assume, like, they wouldn't just give us the Golden Gun and then not have that be part of the game, you would think. So
Or maybe this is a very young Goldfinger.
yes, maybe it's something like that, where
Yeah.
they have the Golden Gun and, Goldfinger.
No, Mr. Bond, I want you to die.
So I don't know, but that was one thing I saw here. I'm like, please explain this mask. Tell us who this is. Like, it's one of the
Yeah.
bonuses in one of your collector's editions, and we don't know who it is.
Yeah. So, man, just so many reasons to be looking forward to that.
Yeah. Any quick hits you want to do, or are you good to wrap it up?
Man, I'm good to wrap it up. Because I feel like we'll just be paying false homage to the other things I wanted to discuss media wise, and I'd rather have the time to get that information together. But obviously, I want to talk about the new Spaceballs movie coming out, and we've got some weird things where movies are coming back to the theater, like Top Gun, and I want to discuss that next week. And there's some other options. And then, of course, my whole life I've wanted them to do live action Mobile Suit Gundam, and it was announced this week that Sydney Sweeney's headlining a Mobile Suit Gundam live action game, and I don't really know how I feel about that. Because as a fan, I want to see a good Mobile Suit Gundam game, but can't really not go see Sydney Sweeney either. So, it's one of those weird dichotomies. But yeah, so I'd rather just save that stuff for next week.
All right. Well, we will see you guys here next week, next Thursday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. So, yeah, I guess that is it for us. It's been a big week, a big news day. Thank you for
Yeah.
listening. And
Thank you.
yeah, we will talk to you in the comments. See you next week.
I must bid you adieu. Goodbye.